Hello and welcome to our live debate on rising prices and the cost of living crisis. I'm Shona Murray. I'm a Brussels correspondent here at Euronews. Today we're going to break down what's behind this rising inflation and what we can expect in the coming days, weeks, months, possibly years. We're joined by a panel of experts and lawmakers to discuss what this means for Europe, for Europeans, what the EU can do and what member states can do to address it.
It is a perfect storm, and policymakers don't really know how to react, and in some ways the way they're reacting may not give enough sort of support to individuals who are suffering a cost of living crisis right now.
In fact, what we are concerned about is that our economic model is not up to the 21st century. There is one word I have not yet heard today in this debate, which is climate crisis. And the climate crisis and addressing the climate crisis will lead to higher prices. This is just normal. And that means that the price increases that are currently taking place will not disappear just in a few months' time, because we are in an energy transition that will lead to higher prices. We are in a food system transition that might lead to higher prices. And that's where we as people are part of the solution. We need to change our lifestyles, the way we eat, the way we move, the way we travel, the way we heat or cool our houses, the way we buy or not products, the way we recycle or waste products.
The fact that so much of the food we produce is impacted by the cost of energy. And then on top of that, you also have, let's say, the cost that will be for environmental change and the cost that will bring into production. And that's going to cause a longer term inflationary impact as well. So I think we have to look at it in a holistic way about a sustainable future, which is ultimately about a food system that gives us a good balanced diet and also makes efficient uses of our resources. And I think the recent scenarios regards the energy crisis, if you like, that was brought on by the Ukrainian situation, and indeed before that, brings into focus how we use our resources and how we efficiently use them.
One thing I would like to add is that what the ECB has risen interest rates more than was expected, so that was a good sign. However, it was still a little too late, unfortunately. Unfortunately, the recession that could come up out of these interest rates is a result of kicking the can down the road for over a decade. If we look at countries within the Eurozone, certain member states, they still haven't reformed their economies. They still haven't put in the necessary austerity measures that should have been put in place after the euro crisis. So we are seeing that we are in this Eurozone with countries laden with public debt that we now have to compensate with new types of instruments.
That haven't done the austerity measures. I mean, I think because there really is a consensus in Brussels now that austerity was a bad idea, and nobody wants to return to that. So what countries are you talking about there?
Well, that's the thing that I'm saying about kicking the can down the road. It's putting difficult decisions on the long term. If you look at pensions, for example, in France, they're now discussing on having the retirement age back to 60. This is not sustainable. This is not a way to make your economy more competitive.
We've got certainly consumers that have not lived through increased inflation. It's been kept under control for quite some time. So those behaviours are fairly kind of unique. And we see contradictory kind of impulses. You've got the kind of individual that's been buying up, particularly the housing market here, ahead of increased pricing. You've got the others that are looking to cut costs and actually save. And we saw a lot of that. And I know it's enforced, but through lockdown, I mean, in the UK, households saved something like £100 a week because their behaviours had changed. They weren't travelling the same. So I think some of those kind of disciplines need to come back into place.
We are very much afraid of a remake, a redo of the yellow vest things, because our democracies are at stake. People find it not fair to have to pay while they are at the lower end of our economies. And so we really need, I think we should in fact engage in an unequal policy, meaning positive discrimination in favor of the less affluent households.
If you look at one country that is likely to be most vulnerable because of what's going on in Ukraine, is Germany, which was in trouble anyway in relation to long-term growth. He hadn't really, in my view, in any case, invested sufficient in infrastructure. was doing fine in terms of selling to China, was benefiting from a weak euro, but actually the energy supply that it had, that it was depending on, was unsustainable in the long term, even though it was very cheap for a long period of time. And so all the forecasts have Germany being very badly hit, and there are some views that Germany may see a fall, not just at perhaps 3% next year if there is if gas is stopped coming from Russia, but it could be as high as 10%.